Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. And as you can see, oh my gosh, Rachie is actually back for the video like she said she was going to be. Yes, I'm actually back. This is a rare occasion for me, so guys, a little round of applause. But yeah, I'm back, and as you can see, we are back for video essays. Very excited to actually be doing this one because I haven't done a video essay since like the looks maxing video, I think. So it's kind of like I'm going back to my roots a little bit. As you can see from the title, we're going to be talking about femininity, sexuality, and subversion. This video actually, honestly, I've been letting it like muster up for months now, like basically since October. I've been having this video in the vault, basically just trying to like fully accumulate all my thoughts. So everything that I'm going to be saying in this video is literally months worth of me just pondering on this topic. But I honestly saw all the discourse that was happening surrounding certain things, and it just made me think, do you know what? I actually have like a lot that I can really elaborate on for this. So I actually want to make a YouTube video about it. But before we get into the video, make sure you guys like the video if you like today's video. So let me know if you want to see more video essays from me too. If you've got any video ideas for me, comment it down below. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Turn on post notifications to you so that you don't miss an upload from me. I'm going to try and upload weekly. I'll try my hardest. But what I can give you guys concrete plan for is that I will be posting monthly. Every month there will be a new video on this channel. Okay, so the inspiration for today's video, as you can probably see from the thumbnail, we are going to be talking about Sabrina Carpenter's album cover for her latest album, Man's Best Friend, and the controversy and discourse that it caused on the internet. The first chapter of this video is going to be about Sabrina Carpenter and the Man's Best Friend controversy. Man's Best Friend is Sabrina's 7th studio album that was released in August 2025. The album cover, as you can see on the screen, sparked quite a lot of discourse surrounding patriarchy, misogyny, and male-centeredness, with some accusing Sabrina of pushing alt-right propaganda about women ultimately submitting to men. Now, do I personally believe Sabrina is some alt-right Barbie who's trying to push propaganda and basically turn everyone into conservatives? No. I saw not too long ago that she was advocating for the trans community in one of her performances. So I just personally don't see somebody who's alt-right doing that because they don't really gain anything from it. And if she was trying to build a conservative audience, they probably wouldn't like that. So I don't personally agree with this whole thing that, you know, she's basically the Sydney Sweeney of the music industry, because I saw someone say that and I was like, I wouldn't go that far. I really feel like in all of this, there is so much nuance that can be included in this conversation, and it's not as simple as just Sabrina Carpenter is anti-feminist or she's actually peak feminism. I personally saw the discourse happening for the album and the album cover and people's responses to it. And I did think that at some points they did kind of get a bit ridiculous. So I understood a lot of the pushback towards the discourse about the album cover. But I also do think a lot of people started being very disingenuous in the way that they were speaking about this album and its contents before it had even been released. I saw a lot of people already trying to explain away the irony, the satirical nature of the album and all of this stuff before it's even been released, before Sabrina herself even spoke about the contents of the album. There's already people trying to do damage control and all this stuff, and that can really even branch into a whole other topic about how people feel the need to over intellectualize and moralize everything that they consume. My ultimate opinion on this is that I don't think Sabrina Carpenter did anything wrong by putting out this album cover. I don't think she's some terrible person or she's this stupid anti-feminist because she put out this album cover. No, I don't believe that. Do I believe that there's a disconnect between the album's contents and the album cover? Yes, but I don't think that that is enough to basically try and cancel her, or it's like some sort of cancelable offense. And I think a lot of people, and especially her fans, took it as people were trying to cancel her, essentially. So a lot of people, in the response to the criticisms that were surrounding this album cover and people saying that, you know, she's degrading herself and she's pushing anti-feminist propaganda or whatever, a lot of people are actually trying to say, you know, they were basically using the choice feminist talking point where they were like, well,
because Sabrina Carpenter is a woman and she's choosing to be on all fours and let this man pull her hair like this, it's actually feminist because she's making the choice to do that and nobody else.
I'm gonna be honest, this, for me personally in general, I completely disagree with choice feminism. I think it's actually a plague. I think that people use it as an excuse to not critically think, to remove any sort of intellectual value from conversations by just saying, or just basically, honestly, choice feminism to me is the epitome of reductionist approach. Like, it's a reductionist approach to feminism, it's a reductionist approach to society in general. This whole idea that anything a woman does is just praiseworthy because she's a woman and she's doing it. So if a woman decides that she wants to go and rob a granny, it's feminist because she's choosing to do that. Like, it's no. Like, that's literally how it feels sometimes though, because it's like some people, they love being devoid of any critical thinking. And I think honestly as well, when we do speak about how reductionist it is, we have to get into desire politics and also the fact that Sabrina is a blonde haired white girl. She is already the traditional presentation of femininity, right? White femininity is seen as the ultimate standard of femininity, and especially her being blonde too and short and small, it just goes more into this whole thing of how people see her as this innocent person. They infantilize her, they forget that she's a grown woman, things like that. And when you factor that in with the kind of sexuality that she's portraying, and again, when I say this, I'm not saying that I know the ins and outs of Sabrina Carpenter's sexuality, what she does in the bedroom, or, you know, what her real love life and all of that is like. I don't know all of that. I'm just going off of what she puts in her music and, you know, the art that she presents and how she expresses herself on stage and all of these things. What she's presenting is a very, like, and yes, while she is heterosexual, she's presenting a very white heteronormative presentation of sexuality. That's just the bottom line, honestly. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because there's a lot of people who do resonate with that, and that's why she's so popular. That's why she gets so much praise, because she does it in a way that is more appealing to people. So I'm not diminishing that at all, but I am saying that because of that being the case, you cannot then say that there is this huge intellectual value or huge visionary or revolutionary value or feminist value in her doing that, because there's nothing subversive about that. And I think that is where, for me, where the disconnect starts going, because a lot of people were trying to actually say that she is somehow subverting norms by her using an album cover where she's on all fours and her hair is being pulled by a man. There's nothing subversive about that, sorry. That's literally what the fans want to see. Like, that's literally what people want to see. I mean, I'll even include screenshots here. There's like screenshots of like conservative men who saw this album cover, saw that people were outraged about it, and they were happy. They were happy. They were like, oh, women are finally knowing their place again. White women are taking back their femininity and all of this stuff. And it's like, if conservatives are looking at your album cover and thinking, yes, this is part of my ideology, this represents me, then how much revolutionary value really is in that? I don't know if you can really say it's as left-leaning as you think it is, if they can look at that kind of imagery and think that is somehow being marketed towards them. And I'm not saying that Sabrina Carpenter is marketing herself towards conservative. I don't know that. But I am saying that, let's be honest, anyone who actually is liberal or leftist or whatever is not going to look at an image of a woman on all fours having her hair pulled by a man and think that that's, yes, this is for us. They're not thinking that. Now, can I acknowledge the fact that Sabrina Carpenter is an artist who is able to express herself fully and unapologetically, and she doesn't let anybody make her shrink herself or minimize herself for any other person's comfort? Yes, I can acknowledge how there is value in that. Of course there's value in it. But I do think that there is levels to this stuff, and that is where people are now losing the plot. They don't realize that if we're speaking in terms of the totem pole of how, you know, how valuable this actually is, it's not up at the top. But the way that some people were speaking during this discourse, they would make you think that it was all the way up at the top, and I'm like, no, actually there's levels to how visionary this kind of artistry can be. I personally feel like we do need to start using some critical thinking when it comes to her music, her image as well. If we're going to have conversations like this, we need to apply critical thinking when we dissect her image and her art. Because as someone who did enjoy Straw and Sweet, I thought the album was great. I loved the visuals, everything. I think it was fantastic. It was fun pop music to me, and that's all it was. I'm not saying that there's no value in her lyricism or that she has no talent. I'm not saying that, because it takes talent to be able to create good pop music. Not any sort of random can just make a pop hit and make consecutive pop hits and then on top of that have a whole successful album rollout and album era. So I'm not taking any of that away from her. But I do think that some people, again, it's this issue of having to over intellectualize what you are partaking in or what you are consuming. I don't think that there is this huge intellectual value in Sabrina Carpenter's music. I'm going to be honest. And there doesn't need to be intellectual value in every genre or every artist's music. Some people just make music that is fun, that is pleasurable on the ears, and they talk about interesting, fun concepts. They don't have to be super intellectual. I'm not saying that Sabrina is incapable or whatever, but I am saying that from what we've seen of her music, that's not what she does. She doesn't do that, and that's fine. But I think the problem for me is the fact that some people will try and say that actually no, she is doing that. You just have to look deeper. Personally, I think if someone is actually trying to really put out a message, they really are trying to tell people, I have something to say, they are going to make it where it's obvious. You can just see it. You can just see it when you hear it, when you read the lyrics, all of these things. I think this whole thing of how, oh, well, if you look on the hidden meaning and, you check the key, like, do you know what I mean? Why are we doing all of this just to be able to find any sort of intellectual or feminist value in what you are saying? I personally, again, I'll keep reiterating this. I don't think Sabrina Carpenter's music needs to be feminist. I don't think it needs to be super intellectual either. I don't think she even needs to really portray sexuality in a way that's like really subversive or flips norms on its head. I don't think she needs to do any of that. I think that weird though that some of her fans were trying to say or claim as if that was the case when it's like that is quite obviously not what she is doing. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it does make you think, do these people think there is a problem with that, or they think that it's weird that they enjoy this kind of stuff because they think art should be that way? Because there's nothing wrong with her making the kind of music that she does. But I think that it's weird that people want to attach this label to her. She's never actually really shown why that label can be attached to her.
I just wanted to elaborate on this part because I feel like some people might be confused as to why I said this. But I said this because I've seen a lot of people try to argue, and even within this discourse, there are people that are trying to say, well, Sabrina often talks about how men do her dirty, and she kind of drags them a little bit in her music and calls them out for being children and having fragile egos and all of these things. And to that, my response would be that while I do think there is value in women making music like this, where they are calling out men for mistreating them in dating and things like that, because it's a very common experience that a lot of women have, including me. So it's like a lot of us can resonate with that, but do I think it makes you inherently feminist to do that? No, because I'm going to be honest, as someone who actually follows content creators who are feminist or describe themselves that way, there are plenty of people who are in these spaces who wouldn't even call themselves feminist, or people who are even anti-feminist who do the same stuff. They will make videos talking about how men do this and men do that, but they're not even feminists. So that's why I wanted to make that distinction, because I think sometimes people mix up the fact that you can give a certain talking point and that makes you all of a sudden aligned with a certain ideology, when it's like, I think it's actually way more nuanced than that. But yeah.
While the album itself is very self-aware, playful, and ironic, the album cover alone represents a very static and historically rigid view of sexuality in male and female dynamics. Many of her fans argue this satirism for the cover because of the lyrical content of the album, but by itself, the cover is an undercut of her lyrical agency that she displays in different songs. She's displaying all of this ability to satirize and be ironic and be self-aware while also being playful. But your album cover just doesn't convey that whatsoever. Like, it just feels very static. So that's why for me personally, I find it strange that there are some people who are trying to then also transform the album cover into something else just based upon the music in the album. Yes, they both go hand in hand, but an album cover also should be able to portray what the contents of the album is going to be. And I just personally don't think that the album cover just doesn't represent what's in the album. Like, the album itself does not give what the album cover looks like. It just does. I personally saw the album cover and was expecting, okay, she's gonna do like some really metaphorical stuff about her basically, you know, being a dog and how she gets dogged out by men, and, you know, but then also her trying to show a clever way of how she then gains back her agency in dating and all of this stuff and in sex dynamics and things like that. But that's just not what the album is. Like, yes, she touches on some of those subjects, but it's not really the bulk of it, in my personal opinion. There's this disconnect, which I feel like a lot of people weren't able to just convey when they were having this conversation. A lot of people were just trying to say, no, it's anti-feminist. Her music she's setting women back and da-da-da. I don't think she's setting women back at all. I think that she miscalculated, or actually I would say that she saw that this album cover would be a good way to create a buzz about the album before it came out, because obviously on its own it's just a very baity kind of album cover. Like, people will see it and think, why is this girl, like, why is a woman on all fours getting her hair pulled by a man? Like, she knew. My critiques itself are not with Sabrina at all, and I'm glad she's found success. My reservations are with how her sexuality has been perceived. When a white woman like her plays with submissive imagery, it is more likely to be interpreted as satire or reclamation, or ironic by default, because of how white femininity is seen as innocent and non-threatening. When women of colour, especially black women, explore the same or similar concepts, it's seen as inherently degrading, literal, and threatening. That interpretive generosity given to the Sabrina Carpenters of the world is decimated. Subversion only really works when the audience is willing to read you as complex. Sabrina's album tries to play with femininity as performance and desire as power, but the discourse actually showed that sexuality is being flattened to moral binaries. If even white femininity is now struggling to be read as ironic and satirical, then what do we think black femininity is being read as? Now we're on to chapter 2, which is about Megan Thee Stallion and when real subversion isn't allowed. Megan Jovan Ruth P, also known as Megan Thee Stallion, is a rapper and songwriter who began gaining traction in 2019. So if anyone is like me and has been keeping up with Megan's career for the past few years, you would know how hardly misogyny has hit her. Like, seriously, I truly have the utmost respect for her, even if there was a day where I stopped becoming a fan of her, which I don't really foresee happening. But if that day ever came, I still would respect her as a human being, because honestly, being able to persevere through everything that she's been through is truly admirable. She has really been through hell, simply for how she chooses to express herself, how she chooses to speak about her sexuality, because of the fact that she raps about her sexuality unabashedly. She is unapologetically herself. She likes to have good sex and she likes to rap about it, and she's not ashamed about it. And that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, because what she's doing is really disruptive, honestly. It's disruptive to hierarchy, because she's actually showing what the real cost of subversion actually looks like, because she's not rapping in a way which is palatable. She's not rapping about or talking about sex in a way that is comfortable to a lot of people. And she ultimately pays the price for it, especially in relation to the black community, and how there's just this lack of protection and lack of humanity that she gets because of the fact that she doesn't want to shrink herself. She doesn't want to make herself comfortable in the system. You can hear in some of her most recent work, such as Act 2 or even Traumazine, about how she raps about sex and specifically her sex life. She consistently centers herself and her pleasure while explicitly stating how she is in charge of her body and how she gets satisfaction from her encounters with these men. A great example of this is a personal fave of mine from her album Traumazine, Plan B. She raps about how if a man isn't doing her right or treating her well, she will leave him and replace him. I mean, A line in the hook of the song is literally,
because dick don't run me, I run dick, nigga. Yeah, you's a bitch.
the way she raps and how she talks about herself, even referring to herself as a pimp in multiple songs, are ways you hear men usually rap or even sing about women, often objectifying them and really dehumanizing them. The way Megan objectifies these men and sees them as a way to gain pleasure for herself is something you don't unabashedly see from a lot of female artists. Mind you, she's been doing it since the beginning of her career and probably will until the end. But as I said before, unfortunately, Megan has had to receive some real nasty repercussions for being herself and disrupting the patriarchy, especially in the context of the black community this way. Misogynoir is a term for the combined force of anti-black racism and misogyny directed towards black women. With it still being a taboo concept for women to own their sexuality, black female sexuality is even more heavily surveilled. Black women are already more susceptible to being dehumanized, but once they are no longer sexually repressed or ashamed about their sexuality, they are continuously bombarded with efforts to humble them or put them in their place. When you put this contextually in conjunction with an artist like Megan Thee Stallion, men, especially in the rap space, feel entitled to continuously dehumanize and police her sexuality because if it's not in servitude to a misogynistic black man that sees her as half a human being, it shouldn't be shown at all. A couple months back, Megan and her partner Clay Thompson had posted, I think it was Clay who actually posted it. It was a picture of them on the beach and Megan was next to Clay in the picture and she was reading a book. And I remember seeing a tweet of this picture and the replies of it were so disgusting. Like seriously, the amount of misogynistic, dehumanizing things that these men were saying about Megan in the comment section was crazy. Calling her 304, saying she's ran through, oh, the whole industry, she's a pass around, why are you with her, da da da. And this is a recurring theme that we've seen. I even talked about it in my last video with my friend. There's this whole thing where a lot of men, because they think that Megan Thee Stallion, they see her as this worthless person, right? Because she speaks about her sexuality in this way. She doesn't minimize herself for the patriarchy. They basically see her as somebody with no value. They don't see her as a human being. So they think that she shouldn't be allowed to be happy. She shouldn't be able to live her life as a normal human being like anyone else. If you're not going to be in servitude to us and allow misogyny and allow patriarchy and placate yourself in it, then we don't need you. You're useless. Like, that's literally what it is. And to me, it is actually just so disgusting. And it's like, it really goes to show what happens when you actually be a disruptive figure. There's no actual concrete proof that Megan Thee Stallion is quote unquote ran through or has been with every man in the industry. There's no proof of it. People use pictures and videos of her standing next to a man or sitting next to some guy years ago and use it as proof that they apparently slept together, or because somebody like Blueface, the dad that he is, gets on a podcast and says, yeah, I did da 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 with her, you know, all of a sudden there's another one on the roster. Like, it's just ridiculous. And I'm like, you not only believe this because of misogyny, literally, you already want to believe that a woman like this who's speaking about her sexuality in this way, she's already disgusting. She doesn't value herself. She's worthless. Of course she would let all these men do these things to her. And it's just such a disgusting mentality to have. You see how she's literally just there. She's in this picture, just sitting and existing, and they still find a way to dehumanize her. She doesn't care about doing what makes them comfortable. She doesn't care about molding herself or softening her image, because there's so many people who say, oh, we're tired of the pussy rap and da da da, even though that's literally what Megan Thee Stallion is, and she has been since the beginning of her career. She won't stop being herself. The way people will tell her stop being yourself is crazy. And it's like, she doesn't do that because I'm not going to listen to you lot. You're not going to tell me what works for me. These people will really, like, truly want to punish her forever for it, and it's disturbing. How she is treated and continues to be treated shines a light on the fact that society at large is still not receptive to real subversion. In fact, it hates it and punishes those who do so. And now, on to the conclusion of this video. The reality is that subversion isn't actually safe, nor is it digestible to the masses. It can actually be very costly, and can isolate you, and especially in mainstream spaces because it isn't truly embraced. Mainstream culture actually rewards palatability that is gesturing as subversion, and in fact, I would say that even the industry itself also does the same. When sexuality refuses to be aesthetically pleasing and digestible or expressed by those already granted humanity, it is seen as something to be corrected and restricted. Megan Thee Stallion is an unfortunate example of the cost of subversion and how it can mean the loss of protection, the loss of empathy in moments of vulnerability too. True subversion doesn't explain itself or satirize for comfort. It just is. Progressive spaces in society claim they want empowered women who go against the grain, but they prove time and time again that they only want them if these women can be palatable and ultimately passive. I mean, how many hate trains have we seen for different women in the industry who refuse to shrink themselves to make others comfortable? The reality is, subversion is never safe, and it is precisely the danger it provokes that makes it visionary. Oh my gosh, guys, my camera literally died right as I was filming the outro for this video. But anyway, so that's the end of this video today, guys. I hope that you lot enjoyed it. I hope that you were able to see where I'm coming from, and I hope that I gave you some more insight, gave you a perspective. I enjoyed making today's video. If you guys want to see more video essays from me, as I said, like the video, comment down below if you've got ideas or topics that you want me to talk about. Hopefully I will see you guys next week. If not, then probably the week after. As I said before, I will try and upload as frequently as I can. That's all for me today, but I will see you guys next time for my next video. Bye.